HMS Benbow. Or as some of you suggested, I think, it is Benbow. Yes, it's Benbow. Sorry, I can really not do anything to the tune of Skyfall. I just do not have Adele's range. Yeah, that's the problem. Not I'm just a terrible singer. I just don't have Adele's range. So, John Cover. I love this era of warships. Somehow they look solid and purposeful, but still a ship with guns rather than a dreadnought. The dreadnought block of armor that hasn't figured out it isn't supposed to float. I would agree with that. And the pre-dreads. Well, I would say in the case of this one, it's a steam battleship, not pre-dread. Then when the sovereigns come along, they are sovereigns and sovereign starships from that point onwards, and then it's the dreadnoughts. Because it's gonna sound strange. I don't like a naming system which is dependent on something which comes after them. Wayne, hello. Good old Eswick. Talking about RN suppliers, we're watching a video on the early years of Blackburn aircraft. Interesting engineering. Talking politically charged names, Canada's first AOPS is now named the Harry de Wolf. What a pointed message. Yes, although possibly a good way of constraining it. I'm sort of thinking, if you put it on a sort of slightly more fighty ship, it might be kind of like a Canadian version of Warspite. It's kind of like if I was reusing the name Warspite in the Royal Navy and I really didn't want to cause issues, I would have used it on an OPV. I think the ship I'd have least used it on, as much as I will have a tremendous amount of respect for the crew, because let's be honest, anybody who wants to sign up to that is a really, really brave person and far better than me at dealing with being cooped up with the same people for months on end. I don't think I would have picked an SSBN. For a name which has the heritage Warspite does in terms of doing its own thing. It's one of the things of, you cannot get a more prestigious name in the Royal Navy's history. Really can't. I mean, maybe Ark Royal, HMS Victory, those sort of things, maybe. More prestigious than Warspite, especially in terms of a list of various things they've done. But you can't really in terms of the zeitgeist, and frankly, those ships have a history of doing their own thing. Repeatedly. With or without their crew's agreement. So it's not the name which I would associate with putting on something like an SSBN. Although I'm sure the crew will do an excellent job. Dan Freeman, for some reason, has the title The Doctor Monkey on this comment, I think, on the post. I'm not sure, because it looks like a picture of Dan Freeman. But I will work it out. And he is apparently has been a member for 2 years and 2 months. So that would fit with Dan. But the Doctor Monkey? I don't think I've ever realised that was the name. Anyway. Hello, I'm Waitress Warspite with 18 inches of max belt armor. Someone tried to scrap me in 1947. That didn't happen. I'm still here. I made Suez more interesting. I made Falklands more interesting in 82, although some upstart sub got the juicy cruiser. You think if Warspite was there, the sub would get to the juicy cruiser first. Iraq was tricky both times, and getting to Afghanistan took some imaginative wrangling. Lots and lots of little casters. People keep dropping hints about me retiring, but what can I say? I'm kind of thick-skinned. They'll have to think of another name for the SSBN. And but again, Dr. Locke again came with old history where the Queen Elizabeths are even more ultra killy death ships, and I hardly approve. There are many options for making the Queen Elizabeths more ultra killy death ships. Small tube boilers, definitely, would be one of them. Let's see, what else have we got? Captain Nano 1587, something should be right is while you point out the fact that it's 18-inch thick armor, you do not point out the depth of the IE, how far it extends over and above or below the waterline. Something that's important when you understand there are a few ships with 20-inch thick armor, but that armor is only 24 or so inches in height, and it's easy to put such a short depth underwater with too much. it's easy to put such a short depth underwater with too much added weight above the design. This is the reason I didn't get into this too much. Now, here is the point. This is the vessel actually floating. And look at the position. You have a line, you have all these lovely lines. And then we have a design here. Look at the space you have between this, but you're doing this now just to wind me up, aren't you? No, stop. You and I are going to have serious words. I need to turn off your auto-moving, don't I? Thank you. Go off. Thank you. Especially with waving hands. Because I do many hand gestures. So if we look at this point, here. Look at the gap that they're supposed to be. And then look here. Look how much gap there is. So, the point I'm making is there is the design stats you get given, and then there's the reality. And the reality depends on the assessment of a lot of interesting people. And I am therefore just giving you the thickness of the armour and giving you its rough area of placement. How's that sound? So the rough area of placement is roughly sort of that band. But mainly that's going to be in the centre of the ship, because mainly the armoured areas, especially at this point in construction, are not the entire belt of the ship. There's going to be an armoured deck the entire belt of the ship, and you can actually see that curves down to the ram, etc., and various other things. But the armour is mainly going to be in the citadel area. And that's another thing to think about, in that you have, in effect, an all-or-nothing armour scheme, in effect. Paul from Chicago, yes, but she has less freeboard than a Gato-class submarine. Stop using the conning tower to make up that freeboard, okay? Okay? If you don't include the conning tower, she still has more than a Gato-class. Not much more, but more, okay? Paul? Conning tower doesn't count for freeboard. We agreed that. Richard Cutts. I believe Armstrong sold 17.7-inch guns to the Italians, and the Royal Navy decided that the same guns, the same shore batteries at Malta and Gibraltar would be a sufficient response. Yeah. They actually went to Ellswick Ordnance Company. Germans put their subsidiary of Armstrong Whitworth at the time. That is a description which doesn't quite describe the scenario. They would later on become a subsidiary, a definite subsidiary, but in this particular period, they are... Okay, it's kind of like Volvo when they were owned by Ford. The story goes, and this is fairly true, that Ford pretty much gave Volvo a design for, basically it was the Ford Focus, or the Ford Mondeo, and said, just turn this into a Volvo and that's your design budget. Yeah. And Volvo went, well, you know, we have some ideas about how we'll Volvoize it, don't worry. And went away and designed pretty much an entirely new car. So much new that not a single one of the original parts or forms or jigs could be used. That is Ellswick Ordnance Company's relationship in this period very firmly with Armstrong Whitworth. Later on, they become slightly more under their control, but they are always a fairly heavy dose of... oh, what have Ellswick's done? They've made a profit. Okay, we're ignoring everything else. Did they pay any attention to what we were telling them to do? Nope, none whatsoever. Okay. Knight 6831, the next Admiral class, aka the Admiral class battlecruisers, had Hood, Howe, Anson, Rodney. True. But Phil Landers points out never Bing. Well, there's two reasons for that. One, Bing, even it was spelt B-Y-N-G-E, the Royal Navy looked for the future, realised that this would give Microsoft an unfair advertising advantage if they named the ship in any way, shape or form close to Bing, so they never wanted to. But more importantly, because despite the successes of the father, the son's actions and what they resulted in kind of outweighed that as the naming conventions go in the Royal Navy. So, not happening. Matthew Keeling, the most successful ships never need to fire a shot in anger. They are, unfortunately, the ones that fade in history as a result. I've long loved the Admiral and Victoria classes. They are clearly figuring out how to build the type of ships that were about to arrive in the Royal Sovereign design after the interesting designs that preceded them. These are the ships that lay the groundwork for all future non-French battles of design, and it shows. I would agree they do have an impact. They are things developing. In many ways, they're also the footprint of turrets, etc., developing. If you consider you've got the ramming assistance and all the various other things placed here. They're a development. Dan Nixon, love your content, thank you, especially the pre-recorded non-gaming ones. I know, I've tried the gaming ones for a year on this channel, maybe a year and a bit, a year on this channel. I probably won't continue them after a year. I'll continue with Twitch, I think. Looking into the analysis of it, but I'm not sure if I'll continue to show the game ones. Maybe it'll become the Monday video, and it'll just be the Sundays, because I have been, you might have noticed, have been dropping it down to just the Sunday video, and the Friday stuff and the other stuff I do on Twitch doesn't turn up on here, just the naval history campaigns on a Monday. Because it's quite nice to have it stored on YouTube as well as, and please note I'm saying this, as well as on Twitch, because Twitch does disappear, whereas YouTube, it stays there if people want to go find the whole campaign series. And I don't fancy setting up and running on a second channel. Someone keeps suggesting that in various comments underneath those videos, and I just look at them and go, no. Actually, to be honest, I don't need to do much about those comments, because that same person likes to use swear words. And my channel is, we prefer the words frigate, and ship, and cruiser. Mainly because of little cousins. Hello! And my desire not to teach them new words, which their parents will blame on me. And thank you, camera. That was helpful. Stop following me. Stop stalking me, camera. Stop stalking me. Stop stalking me. I'm going to have to fiddle with your points to offset you, aren't I? Stay. No. This is going to be fun. It is going to be fun. T-Max Crest. And those guns could shoot further than the spotters could see, so what does that do for you? That's the normal of the spirit. Basically, it takes a while sometimes for sensors to catch up with the reality. You often have this. Sometimes you'll have sensory systems outpace the weapons. You'd want the sensory systems to be able to really outshoot the weapons and sort of give you the relevant details and data when you need it. But often you'll have weapons which outpace the sensors. It's like, if you consider current days scenario, we have a lot of weapons which can outrange the sensors of the systems which are launching them, if we wanted to use those weapons. And so we need other systems to inform them and give them the data. In the terms of having a longer range guns than you can necessarily see, it can actually be helpful for dealing with land targets, because you can engage forts from a longer range. And you could have other systems reporting the information back by signal flag. They did actually try that. It's not a great system. Okay, there are many issues. But they did try it. They did try it. Stop. Stop, camera. You and I are going to have words about this. We've got you working. You're working with everything. But you're being too smart for me. Too smart for me for your own good. I need to turn off your fancy functions. Right. And apologies for some of the stuttering which seems to affect this series. I honestly have no idea. It just, some of the sound issues that have happened with the channel over the last couple of years, I have no idea where they're coming from. Because I do not alter the system from the lives. I do not, it's literally, I leave it. I set it up, it seems okay in the lives, that's fine. I then record, no one complains, and they say they're hearing me fine, check. And then I record, should be exactly the same. And then I put it into a system, which adapts it to make sure it's easier and better, and proves it and supposed to check it for YouTube. And is supposed to also increase the sound by a factor of 1.8. And sometimes it's perfect and it's nice and everyone can hear it perfectly. And sometimes it goes into YouTube and people are going, there are sound issues. And I just don't know why. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked the series. And HMS Benbow. So today's question is, if you were going to name a modern admiral class for the Royal Navy, or any Navy, just specify which Navy, which admirals would you pick? Which admirals do you think are the best examples to pick from history for modern navies to be emulating? Take care.